because anybody who identifies as whatever they identify obviously identifies that way simply because they want to identify that way, right? There's no ulterior motives. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lech, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Let's party. So I have been waiting for somebody to talk about Jeffery Marsh. And this isn't just about Jeffery Marsh. If you're not familiar, it's this guy on TikTok literally telling children to hate their family and become part of his. If that's not creepy, I don't know what it is. But this goes way deeper. Shout out to Blair White for putting this all together. Let's check it out.
I want to talk to the kids.
I have schizophrenia!
Teens on TikTok self-diagnosing themselves with rare mental health disorders, in most cases that they don't have.
People saying like, oh, here's signs you may have this disorder. Like it was like bipolar or like borderline or all these different like rare disorders I've never even heard of before.
Keyword rare disorders.
Biological sex is fake.
Is it though?
My mind like would just be like, you know, like maybe I don't have just depression and anxiety, maybe it's something else.
I want to talk to the kids.
So what Blair White is doing with this video is more a larger look at how TikTok is ruining teens in general, but it's very focused on this stuff. And as a trans individual herself, I feel like she is able to say the things that I'm not allowed to say. We're all thinking it, but she's allowed to say it.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So is it just me, or
And yes, if you are not familiar, that is a biological male.
does it seem as though mental health issues and mental illness is just steadily on the incline in this country? Does it seem as though mental illness is an increasing problem? I mean, hi, look who you're watching right now. Okay, no, but seriously, I want to talk to you guys today about something that has been freaking me out for a few years now and that I have suspected is happening, and now we actually have data to back it up. And what that is the social contagion of mental illness on TikTok, and particularly its devastating effect on teenage girls. The explosion in popularity of self-diagnosis, glorifying mental illness, glorifying trauma, and influencers building brands based on their self-purported and self-diagnosed mental illnesses is just rampant on TikTok.
So this is more than just the trans activists, more than Jeffery Marsh, but I think it all fits in perfectly. And the idea that people are spending too much time on TikTok, and not that TikTok is inherently, because I don't see this stuff on my feed. It feeds you what you watch. And so if you watch, you know, politics and news and commentary and stuff like that, it's going to show you more of that. But if you get in this rabbit hole of this is wrong with this person, that's wrong with that person, and they're getting all this attention for this and that, well, of course, that is going to affect how you see the world and how you see yourself and how you should behave.
If you have the app, you have seen it. And even if you don't have the app, like me, I'm banned, but every time I go on Twitter or Instagram, someone's reposting a video of someone claiming there are 17 people living in them. They have 17 alternate personalities. There are teenage girls that have tics and have Tourette's syndrome. All of a sudden, there's just this explosion in Tourette's syndrome. How?
Yeah, I've seen many different pages of people just recording themselves trying to say a normal thing, but they are having Tourette's-like tics. And not to say that all of them are fake, but it's just weird to see how many people are actually doing it.
How convenient. In fact, this is such a problem that doctors are reporting record numbers of teenage girls specifically coming in and claiming to have developed some sort of tic or Tourette's.
So if you can't see, if you're just listening, this is a picture of a news article. It says, why is TikTok giving teen girls tics?
Tourette's syndrome.
And we're not talking about like tics on your dog, like weird things that you just can't do, like having Tourette's
Tendencies.
Not that Tourette's is weird, you know what I mean?
Beans.
So she's pretending that saying beans is an involuntary tic. That girl specifically, I have no idea. But the chances that all of these creators all have Tourette's and all want to make their platforms about their Tourette's just doesn't really make sense.
Beans. Beans.
Bean sprout. A bean sprout. Beans.
So now they're all saying beans? Okay, that's fake. That's fake.
Beans. Beans.
And so this isn't content. This is just, you just record yourself acting not like yourself, and you get famous. Is that good? Is that a good thing for our young people?
And these same sentences and phrases you were seeing repeated by girls across the world.
Across the world, both in Australia and in America, using similar phrases. And it was that made us think that social media was a link in what was going on.
At the same time this is happening, there are TikTokers being exposed for faking these Tourette syndrome symptoms, these tics.
Wow.
Says you can't choose your tics. TikToker faking Tourette's gets called out by Twitch streamer.
I want to talk. Wow. I wanted to talk a little bit about wow.
I don't know anything about Tourette's except for the fact that it makes you have these tics. I literally don't know anything else. But this seems fake. It already seems fake. It doesn't seem like a tic. It seems like a thing you're doing.
Wow. Never mind.
And in a very twisted
See, there's just too much. There's too much emphasis. You're too deliberate. It's not disrupting anything that you're doing. That is the thing that you're doing. When you have Tourette syndrome, then the tics will interrupt whatever else you're trying to do. At least as far as I've seen it. I don't know.
way popularizing them, making them a trend, something that is a real condition, don't get me wrong, that afflicts very real people, is suddenly becoming an aesthetic online. Why is that? Doctors are also reporting
It's all for the clicks.
record numbers of teenage girls coming in claiming to have very rare mental health conditions that don't typically appear in that demographic, in that age group. Dissociative identity disorder in particular is an extremely popular hashtag on TikTok with
2.5 billion views for hashtag DID, for dissociative identity disorder. And a lot of times in movies, they'll refer to this as schizophrenia, split personalities, that kind of thing. That's what DID actually is. 2.5 billion views for that hashtag. Do you know how many people actually have DID? Me neither, but it's not that many.
2.5 billion views. How can this very obscure, very rare condition be garnering this much attention on an app?
It's for the clicks.
Hi, welcome to a day in the life of somebody with dissociative identity disorder.
And again, I don't mean to belittle anybody's experience. If you are legitimately dealing with DID and you take to TikTok and you want to express yourself and you know, more power to you. But it's not just that simple. There is, as we are seeing, a social contagion effect. And maybe putting your illness out there as something to be normalized is not exactly having the effect that we want to have. We want it to be normalized in the sense that, yes, you're still a normal person, that you still have value, that you still deserve to be loved, you should be treated equally under the law, all of these things. Yes, we want to normalize it in that way, but we don't want to normalize it in the sense that, hey, this is a normal thing to get on TikTok and pretend that you have this, that, or the other for the clicks.
It's 8:30 in the morning. I'm pretty sure Asher
Day in the life of DID.
woke up and got coffee, and I just switched in.
Hey, it's Art. It is 8:40. Asher was just out, and then I switched in.
My name is Tristan. I am the host of the Asylum System, and if you have met us, you have probably met me. My name is Onyx. I am the primary protector of the Asylum System. I mainly hold traumas regarding adulthood abuse and adulthood abusers. Hi, I'm Nikki.
If you didn't realize, this is the same girl in what I think is the same TikTok.
I'm the social protector of the asylum system. I've been around for a very, very long time.
Hi, I'm Doe.
And again, why is there no explosion of 45-year-old men developing this disorder, 60-year-old women developing the disorder? 45-year-olds and 60-year-olds are on TikTok, newsflash.
That's exactly right, Blair. Because you see the trends that are more organic get followed by other people who are on TikTok. You know, not just the young girls, but it's exactly like when I was in high school, eating disorders were very much a bigger deal than they are now. Not a bigger deal, but I think they were just more popular. And studies have been done to show that it was a social contagion aspect where some girls had eating disorders and their friend group would see that. And then they would develop these same habits even without the mental disorder there. The same thing is happening. And I do not understand why we would think it would be any different.
Population is on TikTok. And even though people think that it's just so different, I also see the same thing happening with transgender. So many people on TikTok specifically are convincing themselves and being convinced by influencers and by the algorithm that they are transgender when they're not. Studies have shown a 4,000% increase in teens identifying as transgender.
4,000%? Come on.
That's not easily explained away by an increased social acceptance, as activists would say, because LGBT acceptance is actually statistically on the decline. So there's no explanation for that. And keep in mind, it's not to say that none of these mental health issues exist. Obviously, they do. Transgender people are very real. Hi, I'm one of them. People with schizophrenia are very real. People with bipolar disorder, very real. People with Tourette's syndrome. I want to start this.
And this goes back to something we were talking about in another video about people complaining about things that aren't really that big of a deal. The fact is, there are people with these disorders. There are people who maybe could find solace in living with that disorder by being a legitimate person on TikTok who is sharing their experiences. But then when they get lost in a sea of other people just faking their real disorder, well, then they get lost and they see somebody who's clearly faking it getting popular because they're playing the algorithm, whereas this person is just being themselves. It's going to make it worse.
Discussion with talking about teenage girls identifying as trans, because obviously that's my wheelhouse. There's a very interesting cognitive dissonance happening here because a lot of people are very willing to accept the fact that these tics are a social contagion, that these other mental health disorders these teenagers are claiming to have are genuinely a social contagion. There are articles written about it in the New York Times, and people are genuinely saying, why are all these teenage girls getting tics off of TikTok? It's clearly
for the clicks,
something that is contagious. But a lot of those same people raising that alarm would be much less willing to acknowledge that the exact same thing is happening with transgender.
So transgender and the way you identify in it can be very heavily based on your culture and your cultural background. There are 3 genders. There's a third gender. I forget what it's called.
You forget what it's called? I was going to give you an are they though, but you don't even remember what it's called. So apparently there's not. There's only 3. And you already know man and woman, so if there's a third one, you'd think that'd be at the front of your mind.
Sorry, but you can identify as those 2 non-binary genders. And then take your pick if you want man or woman or not even another non-binary gender.
Yeah, these teenage girls can totally convince themselves via TikTok that they have Tourette syndrome tics that affect them every hour of every day. But no, they can't possibly be identifying as trans as a result of a contagion, right? Of course not. That would be politically incorrect.
So I see what she's saying is that while there is a lot of people accepting and acknowledging the idea that there is this social contagion aspect with things like Tourette's, can't be with trans because anybody who identifies as whatever they identify obviously identifies that way simply because they want to identify that way, right? There's no ulterior motives.
An article in the New York Times called How Teens Recovered from the TikTok Tics wrote, a surprising percentage of their patients with the TikTok tics identified as transgender or non-binary.
So this is somebody who was one of these creators who was pretending to have these tics, talking about how they got out of that.
But without having hard data in hand, multiple attendees said the doctors worried about publicly linking transgender identity and mental illness. The article basically states that the way that these teens cured or had their, tics that weren't really tics cured were just being educated and convinced that they really didn't have them, just basically brought back down to reality, right?
So you're telling me, you are telling me that if we just be honest with people and don't indulge in their delusions, we can actually help them?
What?
That's amazing. I wish somebody had thought of that way before. That maybe truth is what matters more than your feelings.
The difference between, showing a teenager that they don't actually have tics and showing a teenager they're not actually transgender, though, is the latter has a huge taboo against it. In fact, it's illegal in some places. In Canada, it's actually illegal and considered conversion therapy for a therapist to meaningfully push back in any way on a patient who is questioning if they're transgender. They are forced to affirm. It's affirmative therapy.
And then you wonder why people have lost trust in institutions. Psychology is an institution. The medical field is an institution. So if these things are being co-opted by the same people who are pushing this woke ideology and, so on and so on and so on, that's why people don't trust it anymore. It used to be that you could just go to the experts and ask them, what have you been doing? What's the result? And we can trust them. But now we're here in a bifurcated society.
What a perfect storm. I mean, you have all these kids who are being convinced that they're trans via TikTok, therapists that can't push back in any way, and then they're on the road via that therapist to irreversible surgeries and hormone treatments. Could we be failing kids anymore? How does TikTok convince a young, impressionable teenager that they're transgender? Actually, very easily. All meaning behind the word transgender has basically been diluted to the point that if you are gender nonconforming in any way, you are transgender. That's how far the word has expanded. There are teenagers thinking that if you use emojis as pronouns, you are transgender.
So I'm going to be showing you how to use it.
Oh my God, I thought she was joking. She's not joking. And I mean, usually, I don't have a lot more commentary here. And, we're not going to go through the whole video. But again, it's just there's so many things that Blair can say that I can't. And even though we completely agree and I think exactly what she thinks, I'm just not allowed to say it.
Did you know that any emoji can be used as pronouns? Shut up, no.
What used to be a very rare and very real diagnosis for a very small fraction of the population is now just another popular aesthetic on TikTok.
It's just another popular aesthetic on TikTok. Kind of like being goth. Have I not been saying for months that trans is the new goth? or the new emo or whatever. It is just fashion.
Similar to the tics, similar to DID, similar to borderline personality disorder. Let's focus on top surgery, which is a female to male surgery to remove the breasts, double mastectomies.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but top surgery is for anybody. There's no template
For anybody? Can I get top surgery?
for what you must look like after top surgery. What makes life so beautiful is the diversity in its people.
And that's I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that aspect. That if you legitimately are somebody who would be helped in a drastic mental way by this drastic change to your life, then who am I to say that you shouldn't? That's not the point. The point is that there are so many of them that it can't possibly be that they're all legitimate. And so they say that it takes about 7 to 10 years to go through the post surgery, to go through whatever it takes. That 7 to 10 years is the Goldilocks zone for detransition. And so all this stuff kind of started bubbling up right around 7 years ago. So we should be seeing a lot more detransitioners. And I've already seen a lot more detransitioners coming. And I don't hope for that. Because it's got to be horrible to realize that you've made a decision that has turned your life upside down and that there's no going back. I hope that everybody who's had these surgeries can live their life as they are. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
And those who are post-op top surgery are no different. Top surgery isn't
Well, except for the fact that they are different because they don't have parts of their bodies anymore.
limited to one gender, one expression, one style. It is not limited to one ethnicity, one culture, one race. It's not limited to one shape or size. Those who are post-op have just as much variety as the rest of the world. Some choose nipples, some don't. Some have
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. That's just a funny sentence. Some choose nipples and some don't.
straight scars, some have curved scars, some have no scars. Some of us are feminine, some of us are masculine, some of us are androgynous. The only one thing that we all truly share is freedom.
Freedom from having breasts. Like, why can't you, like, what is having breast meat? And maybe I'm so ignorant about this. But what is it that you can now do in the world that you couldn't do before because you had breast meat? I don't understand.
Top surgery isn't limited to one gender, one expression, or one style. Let's unpack that. This video
Please.
is so viral and is about the most irresponsible message in regards to a permanent surgery that I can imagine. It should absolutely be limited to one thing, adult female to male transsexuals.
Facts.
And obviously women with breast cancer and various illnesses, but you get what I'm saying.
Wow. The fact that didn't even come into my mind. That used to be the only reason that you would get a single or double mastectomy was for cancer. And that didn't even pop into my mind.
Not any teenage girl who opens her phone, maybe is uncomfortable with her growing body, sees
like every teenage girl ever in history,
this emotional porn music, and is told that it's not just limited for one gender. It's not just limited for one expression or one style. What?
You too can chop your body up and never, ever, ever be the same again.
A whistleblower at a transgender clinic that was treating kids called the Washington University Transgender Center recently came out with some very explosive claims about what was happening in this clinic.
That's
So
what we
first off,
need. That's what we need. People who actually see what's going on here, because I definitely believe that a lot of people in this industry probably didn't realize how extreme it was going to be. And they genuinely wanted to just help people who were struggling with their gender identity. But you get there, that's not what it is.
She's a woman who describes herself as left of Bernie Sanders. So I just think it's important to say that and say that this is not some right winger that came out and is just trying to bash trans kids. That's the narrative people like to pull, right? Not the case. She said she could not in good conscience work at the clinic anymore because they are harming kids. Here's some of the examples she gave. She told of an instance where a teenage girl received a double mastectomy and 3 months later came back asking to have her breasts reattached.
3 months. So just talking about 7 years. Took 3 months for this girl. She hadn't even healed. She hadn't even healed from the surgery yet. Actually, I don't know how long it takes, but you know what I mean. 3 months. That's 90 days. But they're gone forever.
She told of kids whose identities changed from day to day and whose pronouns were inanimate objects. Sound familiar? And these kids were still prescribed cross-sex hormones and surgeries. You would think that a wavering, unsteady identity and using inanimate objects as pronouns would maybe be a couple red flags that a physician would say, hey, I'm not going to do anything permanent to this child. But we don't live in a world where people put integrity over profits, unfortunately.
And again, I wish I had more to say, but I just want to show you guys this because she is so spot on. And as a straight male, I am not allowed to say these things.
Just not how the world works. So all these kids receive surgeries and hormones regardless.
Hi, my name's Jasper. I use they pronouns.
Hi, my name is Liana. I use they demon pronouns.
They demon pronouns? What does that even mean?
This video is how to use our pronouns.
I'm just gonna not.
I want to make it clear that the 2 kids you just watched in that video would be candidates for cross-sex hormones and surgeries at the clinic that we just talked about. That should terrify you.
It absolutely does terrify me. So, I mean, you get the point. This is not just about Jeffery Marsh, but I'm glad that she opened with him because he is directly trying to twist the minds of children. But it goes much deeper than that and much further than that. These kids are just getting pulled in. I would 1000% be in favor of banning TikTok. Now, I don't think that would do too much because then everybody would just go over to YouTube Shorts and hey, come subscribe over here. But I think that there is a little bit more control over what is going to be acceptable if we have a company that's based in America. It's maybe not very clear, but it seems kind of reasonable that a Chinese-owned company is doing this on purpose. We're past the age of dropping bombs and hot wars and stuff like that as the go-to. This is 4th and 5th generational warfare, psychological warfare, breaking down the generation so that there is no one to fight. There is no one to oppose them, and they just get exactly what they want. What is it they want? A weak America. And with this, you are weakening America. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did you think? Thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure you check out the live show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. The Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.